Russell Seagle, it's great to have you on the air. How are you doing today?
Great. Good morning, Martin.
Good to have you on the show. Would you begin by just saying a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dig into the some tips for people on how to get started and stay going.
Sure, sure. Yeah, for about the last 15 years, I've been working with startup entrepreneurs and small business people. Prior to that, I did have my own business, and in fact, still have my own business. I'm doing consulting and public speaking now, a little different from the days when I had employees. But yeah, at one point, my wife implored me to, can't you just go out and get a real job? I mean, everybody knows that being self-employed isn't a real job. And so I humored her and took a job working with other small business owners. So I never really left my first true love. But since I was about 11 or 12 years old, I've been working for myself, earning my own money. I've always had a problem with authority, so working for the other guy just never did seem to work for me. And so the people that I work with, I feel their pain. I know what they're going through, and know why they want to be on their own. But when you trade one boss for 100 bosses or 1,000 bosses, things change quite dramatically. And so you gotta be prepared for that.
Well, that's great. I love that. The open admitting of challenge with authority that exists in so many people. What are the biggest thing you see that is the mistake people make when they're starting to look at a business? So we'll begin there.
Okay. I really see three things that are big mistakes that small business owners make. Number one is that they see a small business as their piggy bank or their ATM. And it's not that way, especially in the startup years. You have to be prepared to make nothing for quite a while, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with pumping every bit of your money back into the business for a while. Starting a business is like having a baby. You've got to feed it, care for it, clean it up, let it grow, help it to grow. And if you siphon off all the money, you can strangle your business before it ever gets off the ground. Number two, the next biggest mistake that I see is that it's not all about us. It's not about what we want to do. It's all about the customer and offering something that the customers want and need. I once had a couple of young ladies come to me. They wanted to start a juice bar in a town with a population of just under 2,700. And I thought, wow, this is not going to make it, but let's let them help themselves to figure this out. Nobody wants to hear that they have an ugly baby, but if you do the business plan yourself, you may find out that that the baby is ugly. And so they came back to me, and these girls, they were not just vegetarians, they were vegans. Okay, no meat byproducts at all in their diet. And they came back to me, they said, look, we've given up on the juice bar idea. I said, okay, great. We want to start a cart. And I thought, okay, well, maybe a cart will work. You can move a cart around. You can put it in different places. You can have different types of juices on different days. And they said, no, 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 no. Not a juice cart. We want to do a hot dog cart. I said, what? I said, aren't you vegans? One of them looked me straight in the eye. She said, we're going to sell them. We're not going to eat them. And I thought, that's exactly what most people need to think about when they start their business. It's about what the customer wants, and what you can sell is not always about what you want. The third big mistake is that people really lack the ability to make tough decisions. If you want to start a business to avoid conflict, to avoid making hard decisions, you may want to think about something else. Starting a business really does call for the ability to have what I call the fire your mother mentality. I mean, she may be a great lady and you love her, but if she's not working out, you have to let her go. And if you watch any of the reality shows on television, it's usually family members who can't tell family members the truth. It's people who can't fire their friends, and their friends are dragging the business down. You really have to have a tough-minded mentality to be able to weather a small business, and you have to be able to make tough decisions.
That's great. That's great. I love that. I actually say there's no better personal development program than being self-employed, because you're
You
gonna,
got that right.
any unresolved issue from your past is gonna be in your face, and you better get over it.
Absolutely right on that.
So that's excellent. One thing I realized also is just the idea of um, really viewing your time as money more than often people do when they're paid by someone else. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes, yes, and more than just your talent is worth money.
Yeah.
You bring value to the table. You know, if you have a quilting business, my goodness, there's no way you're ever going to get the money back on that quilt from the time that you've put into it. But the value that it brings could be worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And I always think back to an old Dilbert cartoon where Dilbert meets a homeless lawyer on the street, and he's holding a sign. It says, "World's fastest lawyer, please give me money," or something like that. And he said that because he billed his time and he was so fast, he never made any money. It was a failure as an attorney. And of course, you know, most attorneys are not gonna make that mistake. But don't fall for the fallacy that you have to charge for your time when you could indeed charge for the value that you bring to your customers. A lot of times they're willing to pay for that tangible value where they don't see the value in the time that you're putting in. I have a friend who's a cardiologist, and he was having an argument with his auto mechanic one day, and his auto mechanic said, "Look, Earl, you and I do the same thing. We're technicians." And Earl said, "Okay." He said, "So when that Dodge is running at full speed, I want you to break down that engine and put it back together, and then we'll talk about how we do the same exact thing."
That's great. That's great. The next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was, okay, now you've got going. What is your views about sustainability over time? And I certainly, there's some overlap with what you said in the beginning, and setting the right level for the business as well.
Okay. Well, the habits that you set in the first 6 to 12 months of the business are going to be the key to survivability and sustainability. Number one, you've got to set good habits. Successful CEOs, successful entrepreneurs have a daily routine, and they don't divert from that routine. It's the same thing every day. Most of the successful entrepreneurs and CEOs who I've studied are up before 6 o'clock in the morning, because from 6 to 9 a.m. is the time that they control. Once you get to work, I mean, the world explodes, and you have no control over your time, but that's the time that you can control. That's the time that you can read, exercise, meditate, whatever it is that you do. So set those good habits. Make sure that you set good bookkeeping habits in your first year. If you have to hire an accountant, hire an accountant. I'm a big believer that you can do anything, but you can't do everything. So in that first 6 months to a year, farm out the things that are not making you money but are necessary evils of the business. You have to do these. If you're not good at marketing, if you're not good at social media, if you can't set up an email system and set up an email campaign, hire someone to do that. You, for instance, Martin, if you're not a good bookkeeper, and there are a lot of folks who just like to make the stuff and sell the stuff, and they don't want to account for the stuff, hire an accountant. But the habits that you set are going to be the habits that you have in year 3, year 5, and year 10, so go ahead and set good habits in that first year. Some of those habits are not even what we would think of as business related. One of the habits that I find is most overlooked is eating right, drinking plenty of water, and getting enough sleep. If you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be any good to your customers or to your employees. And remember, I said that starting a business is just like having a baby. There are going to be a lot of sleepless nights, but you've got to make sure that you set up habits. I mean, eventually, we want the baby to come around to our way of thinking rather than let the baby continue to control our lives. And so if the baby becomes your master, you're going to wake up one day singing that B.B. King song, you know, the thrill is gone, the thrill has gone away.
That's
so
great.
Make sure you set habits that put you in control of the business, and make sure you set those habits that are sustainable habits that will keep you from going stir crazy after that first year. You want the business at some point to go on autopilot to some degree. I mean, you're always going to have a hand in it, but there are certain things that you don't want to have to touch, and after that first year, you'll know exactly what those are. Also, the first year, you talk about a great learning experience. My goodness, your first year in business is an education. That's an MBA degree right there, because the customers who you put in your business plan are not going to be the customers that actually walk through the door. The cash flow that you projected is not going to be the money that you have in the bank. The people who are working for you are going to be psychos and lunatics. They're not going to be the sweet, lovable teddy bears that you put in your business plan. So everything changes when your plan meets with the reality. So just make sure that you're always looking at your plan and how you're performing compared to that plan.
Excellent tips. I'm in complete agreement with this. Just the joy of self-employment and being of service that we both benefit from. I remember being in a large corporation and going, I wonder how much of our day is involved in managing the perception to the manager above us to influence the perception of the stockholder. You know?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And I just, to me, the micro business has a higher level of integrity sometimes than the person managing their perception of their stockholders.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you really hit the nail on the head with the issue of service. You know, if we start a business thinking that we're going to create this ATM machine that just spews out cash to us, that is really the wrong way to think about it. But if you start a business with service as your top priority, who can you serve, what market can you serve, and what can you bring to that market that really benefits them, the money's going to follow. But you really have to have that service mentality, and no matter what you sell, you only bring a solution to a problem, or you bring good feelings. And if you can solve somebody's problem and make them feel good, you've hit a home run. The money's going to be there.
Yeah, well said. And I also think another thing that you clearly live out of from the moment we first talked is the importance of a personal mission and clear direction of what you're doing. And I'd like to talk a little bit about it because even though we didn't spell it out, Russ, it was clear in how you spoke about at our meeting about your passion for North Carolina. And I thought I'd start by sharing mine and then let you share yours, because I think it's important for people to hear that we don't just wake up, what are we doing to make a living next? We wake up with a mission that helps guide our decisions. And so mine is really focusing on helping people live truly meaningful lives and sustainable ones. And from there, I have a mission of economic growth in North Carolina from the ground up, supporting small and micro businesses. And that means in small towns, small counties, individuals, business owners, and alike. And that actually informs much of my actions. And I'd like to pass it over to you to share whatever your equivalent of that is, so people realize these are things that we must keep alive being self-employed to actually make sure we have both a shield, a guide, and a lantern.
I would just say amen.
Well, that's why we're finding a way to team up. Just
I've been about the same thing. You know, when I took that real job, when I sold my business back in 1998, took the real job. The real job was with the Small Business Center Network in the community college system in North Carolina. I was the Small Business Center Director for Southwestern Community College for 11 years, and got to meet some great people from across the state, people who are just as passionate about small business success as I am, and got to work with some fantastic small businesses. And I think the best byproduct of that has been that a lot of those small business owners have become my friends. And we still stay in touch, and I still am willing to offer them advice and counsel in their businesses, but it's a little bit different now. because they're getting that advice from a friend, somebody who has been with them since the beginning or before. I have been slowly turning my attention from direct contact with the small businesses to working with the service providers, working with those folks not only in the Small Business Center network but in other similar circles, and with small lenders, economic development agencies, and the like, working with them to help them hone their counseling skills, their consulting skills. They may have a specialty area that doesn't lend itself well to the counseling environment, and I want to help them make sure that they're giving the best advice they can to these small business owners. And let's face it, economic development has changed over the last 10, 20 years. It's not all about chasing the big manufacturer to come in and take over your empty plant. It's about finding 20 or 30 solid small businesses to fill those main street locations in your town, or maybe even only 5. But when we have that kind of diversity, you know, if a plant in a small town it employs 200 people, when it goes out of business, it hurts a lot of people. It hurts the overall economy in that town. If you had a number of small businesses employing 200 people, if any one of those goes under, there's a small ripple, but it's not a tidal wave. So what we've got to do is rethink economic development. We've got to make sure that we create an environment that is economically friendly, regulatory environment that is friendly, a local government environment that is friendly to small businesses. We've got to make it easy for people to start small businesses. Not so easy now. Don't hear me say that it's so easy that they can quickly lose their entire life savings. We don't want them out there gambling. We want to make sure they have good information. But I want to work with these technical assistance providers to make sure that they're shepherding these people through the startup process so that it is a thoughtful, beneficial process. It breaks my heart, Martin, when I see somebody start a small business and then 2 months later the doors are closed.
Yep.
And I know that maybe pride got in the way. They didn't ask somebody. They didn't ask anybody. They didn't have a business plan. They didn't put that in front of a lot of eyeballs to give them feedback, to let them know, here's a problem area that you need to fix. Here's something that we don't think is going to work. Can you fix this? You know, just because your business plan tells you not here, not now, not this way, it's not telling you that you can't ever do this. It's just saying, here are some things that you need to fix. And so I want to work with these technical assistance providers, and I'm still going to be committed to working directly with the small business owners, and I'm still going to speak across the state on how to get started and how to be successful. But I want to work with the technical assistance providers to help them do the best job they can, because they're right there on the ground in front of those people every single day, and I'm not.
You know, there's several comments on that, and I think that clearly answered the question of your mission. You know, and it's good for people to see. A lot of us that are here let something bigger inform us that helps move forward. But one of the things that I'm so passionate about since a lot of my courses involve marketing and social media and other tools, is that they're on their directories, they get their information listed, they can be found easily, and this is often starting with Main Street, not Wall Street, investing in them. Instead of let's just bring in the next large company, give them some incentives, let them deplete our resources, then leave us with people with skills they can't get a job anywhere else. Let's look at the local talent and skills and smaller groups we can activate in our own town to start there. You know, start at Main Street and work our way out instead of start outside of town. As always the answer, and that doesn't mean there can't be a lot of good opportunities that come in from another area. So, Russ, I'm excited to kind of team up with you in that, because that's what I've seen in teaching since 2006 around the state specifically is we're forgetting the greatness that's in our own town. That I meet people that are brilliant entrepreneurs in the smallest of town that are struggling to get support and the resources to make it all happen.
Yeah, it's there, and I think an interesting. I've had good friends whose businesses have gone under because of a Walmart or similar situation. But here's the beauty in the situation. There's light at the end of the tunnel for the small business owner, because studies have shown that 10 years after a Walmart comes in and just those downtowns, if they put enough attention and energy into it, they can come back. You know, Walmart's inventory is an inch deep and a mile wide.
Mm-hmm.
And in one instance, in a place where all they sell is a few items for camping and hunting and fishing and so forth, you know, we've seen outdoor outfitters come in, and now their inventory is a mile deep and an inch wide, and so it's a different take. And when people can't find what they want at Walmart, they go looking for a small business to provide that deeper level of inventory, that better customer service, that personal touch, and it really does take a revival to get that going. So all hope is not lost just because some other large company comes to town. It just takes creativeness. It takes some out-of-the-box thinking. Say, what can we do here that Walmart is not providing? Because they are not the end-all, be-all. I mean, if everything else in the world closed down and Walmart was all that was left, we'd starve. I mean, and they'll admit that they don't have enough to provide everything we need. They would love to, but they don't. And so the small business growth that does crop up around that, it's kind of like the amazing rebirth of nature that's going on in Pripyat near Chernobyl. I mean, when the whole area was damaged by the Chernobyl nuclear accident, they found that the forests are coming back, and they're lush, and they're green. The animals are thriving. You know, no humans yet, but it can happen. I'm not saying that a Walmart is a Chernobyl event, but for a lot of small towns, it can seem that way, and so it just takes creativity. It takes a town coming together. It takes a group of people deciding we are not going to let this place die. We are going to revive it economically, and then figuring out a way to do that.
Yeah, and I do want to say, you know, this is I've got some good friends that also enjoy good livelihoods with Walmart, that other things that have occurred. To me, the thing is, instead of being upset that something has changed, let's be more responsive and find out what are the holes that aren't being filled. Let's
yes.
And I see that in a small town where there's a hardware store, where they can have an understanding of putting things together that are known local, that a larger direct own, and that's really what I mean when I reference Walmart, a direct owned business, because Starbucks is a direct own as well. So many of the Radio Shacks are direct owned as well, and the thing is they're in pretty good shape. They have resources to take care of themselves. What we have is, our passion is, to me, more the local owned or local franchise, where the money stays more in the community. You have a local owned where it's direct controlled, where it's Bob's Hardware and you meet Bob. You know, in that case, you've got the money truly staying at the highest concentration in the community. Then the next level to me is the franchise owned, where you have a few franchise, you bought something there and you're using it. That still keeps a lot of money in the community. And then the third is like Starbucks or Walmart. Then the employees keep the money in the community, but the rest actually goes out of the community. And I think that's an important distinction to make, and something you're working on, trying to help those direct-owned, locally owned businesses. So from there, I'd like to talk a little bit about the small business centers that we're both passionate about, and what are they, and let people know, because so many times people will say, well, this is one of the best kept secrets, and I think we both believe we don't want it a secret. we want it to be known by the world of what's in their backyard and resources. So would you start, Russ, and just let people know what we've mentioned as small business centers, but we haven't really let people know specifically what are they and how people can take advantage of them as two statewide trainers that go in and help them out.
Sure. You know, in North Carolina, there are over 50 community colleges. In some states, these are called junior colleges or two-year colleges, but in North Carolina, it's the community college system, and no one is more than an hour away from a small business center at these community colleges. Every community college has a small business resource center where they have books, they have computer access, because folks living in rural areas may not have access to high-speed internet. They may not have access to research tools. Everyone is staffed with a small business center director who is capable and qualified in small business counseling and startup specific issues to the area where these people are located. You know, if you need a banker, if you need an attorney, if you need a CPA, if you need to know who to talk to at town hall or at the county offices, these folks know exactly who to send you to. They know all the names. They know all the directions and where to guide you. North Carolina Small Business Center Network also does over 3,500 small business seminars a year. Now, some of these larger community colleges will do a good number of seminars, where some of the smaller, more rural colleges will do 60 or 70. But all total, 3,500 opportunities to find out more about how to run a successful business is not too bad. You look at going to other states, some of the other states that surround us do some of these same services, but they charge on a cost recovery basis. So some of these seminars that you're going to attend that are already paid for by your tax dollars, it doesn't cost you anything out of pocket to go to these things, and they may charge you a few dollars for some hospitality. If you show up for a lunch and learn, they may actually provide the lunch. That might cost you a few dollars. But you go to some of these other states, do the same exact thing, it's going to run you anywhere from $50 to $300. And so that's a big difference. Also, the counseling services doesn't cost you anything out of pocket in North Carolina to take advantage of the counseling services from the Small Business Center Network. And this is going to cost you money in other states. They charge on an hourly basis. Some of the universities don't charge, but some do. Some of the community colleges don't charge, some do. The small business development centers, SBDCs, that are set up by the Small Business Administration are, in some parts of the country, few and far between, so they're not as accessible. But you have SCORE, somewhere around 12,500 volunteers. This is another outreach arm of the Small Business Administration, but these are completely voluntary positions. These folks have retired from executive positions, or they've maybe owned a business for a number of years. They do a lot of their counseling online, so email is a good way to get in touch with them, but there is nothing like the North Carolina Small Business Center Network for that personal touch, for being able to have someone to hold your hand through the entire process, to take you from idea to reality and to success. They're not just there until you get the doors open. They're there whenever you need them. Once that relationship is established, you've got them, and they're not going to let go.
You know, what I have to say is the small business centers are one of the best ways to get value out of your tax dollar, because it is funded, supported by the state, and not only that, the quality of the directors I've met across the state is just unbelievable. They're often like people like you, Russ, because you said you had been a small business. They want to draw on somebody that has experience or connections that help the community. So you basically you're getting a paid consultant and paid training that would cost you, I'm going to say, thousands of dollars if you weren't in North Carolina. Make darn sure to take advantage of this if you're a smart business owner, and help them out. And then I'm going to add another thing: make sure to come back to them bring your friends, your other business owners, and let them know the success so they can track it. Because, Russ, that's another important piece here, is them tracking that success as they move forward.
Yes, they love referrals, and they do a pretty good job of keeping up with you as you progress and as your business grows. They want to know, are you employing people? Are you seeing profit increases? Are you making an impact in the local economy? That's what they're looking for. They want to know that their services have yielded good fruit. That's not to say that someone who comes in and then chooses not to start a business is bad fruit. No, they look at that as a positive too. If they can talk you out of making a mistake, then they've done a good thing. If they can guide you in a in a way that causes a success versus a failure, then they've done a good thing. So they want to keep up with you, and yes, they love referrals. Referrals, that's the coin of the realm in the Small Business Center network. They want you to, because everybody knows somebody who wants to start a business. So if you've had success with them, why wouldn't you send someone else to them and say, hey, these people can help you?
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll put the location to find out about it. It's ncsbc.net in the area below under the video, as well as, Russ, I'll make sure to get your website so that they can learn more, and then I'll put the website I use for training as well so they can both learn about what we're doing and what we're up to. This has been exciting to have a chance to chat with you. I think we need to find some other topics to have discussions on. We've opened a door, and I'm so excited to share our passion of supporting the North Carolina Small Business Centers, but also our real passion in rolling up our sleeves and being part of what George Millsap talks about as keeping the American dream alive in North Carolina, in the small towns, in the counties. And it's been exciting chatting with you today.
Well, I really enjoyed it, Martin. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we'll again check out the context below. Look in the text area. Love to hear your comments. That's how we know the show is enjoyed enough to produce more on, and let us know what other topics you want. This is Martin Brossman, and this has been a Hangout on Air.